Today we're going to be making a seamless repeat with a diagonally striped pattern. Hey, welcome back. Today we're going to make a fun repeat pattern with a diagonal stripe. For this project, I'm using Procreate. I've created a Procreate canvas in 3000 by 3000 pixels at 300 dots per inch. You can make your canvas whatever size you wish, just make sure your resolution is at least 300 dots per inch so that this works for a wide variety of projects. In layer number 1, I'm going to drop my color for my background, and in layer 2 is where I'll be making my diagonal stripes. I'm going to use colors that are contrasting so it will show up well for this video, but you could use whatever colors you wish. So I need to make a stripe. To do that, I'll press the select tool, choose rectangle, and turn on color fill. Then I can draw my rectangle and the color will automatically fill in the shape. You can deselect and then press the arrow tool, turn on snapping and magnetics, and the distance and velocity, I like to max it out. And then I'll just make sure that my rectangle is centered up on my canvas. When you see this yellow line, that means it's snapped to exactly the center and exactly on the edges. If you don't see the yellow line, you can just scoot your shape until you see it snap. So I know that my stripe is centered directly in the middle, and now I want to rotate it so that it goes in a diagonal across this canvas at like a 45-degree angle. So what I'll do is press the select tool, and down here there's an option that says rotate 45 degrees, and I'm going to press that. So you can see it's now rotated exactly 45 degrees, but I need it to go all the way to the edges. So I can either drag it up like this and make it snap to the edges there with the uniform turned on, or you could use freeform. If you don't want it to get wider as you're stretching it, you just want it to get longer to the edges, you could press freeform and then just drag it one side and then the other side, and it'll stay the same width instead of getting larger as you're like extending it up there. So it's really up to you. So I'll deselect, and let me show you what happens if you repeat this pattern block. I'll group it up into the folder, and by selecting both layers and pressing group, and then I'm going to keep this as my original and duplicate my folder, and so I don't touch this one. You could even rename it so that you're not tempted to flatten it down or to touch that one. You know you're not going to mess with that. I'm going to work with this new group, and just for this testing I'm going to flatten it. I don't usually flatten them, but just to show you in this test I'm going to flatten it down. So I'll go ahead and I'll duplicate it from the first layer till I have 4. If you duplicate from duplicates, you lose quality over time, so make a habit of duplicating from the one you've duplicated the first time. So I'll grab one of those layers and I'm just going to keep snapping turned on, and this time make sure uniform is turned on as well, and then I'll just drag these until they snap to the center there. And let's do the last one. Okay, so all of those are snapped exactly to the edges and to the center, but you can see there's a problem with this pattern. There's a gap here that you need to account for when you're making diagonal repeats. So I'll show you how to resolve that. I'm back here to my original, and what I'll do is go in here and duplicate this red stripe, and I want to have 3 stripes total. I'll take one of them, and with snapping still turned on, I'll scoot it up until it snaps into this corner up here. And you can see that it's perfectly aligned when you see these yellow lines. So I'll take my other one, and I'm going to push the arrow to select it, and then we'll just scoot it down into the other corner until it snaps. You'll know that it snapped perfectly into the edge when you see these yellow lines, so don't let go until you see that. Sometimes it's a little bit finicky, and when you pick up your finger, it moves. So to avoid that, you can deselect this arrow here while your finger is still down, and I like to do that a lot because it prevents any problem from it shifting when I lift my finger. So now you can see that we have a line straight through the center on a diagonal, and then we have our corners filled in. So let's test this repeat. I'm going to duplicate from my original folder. I'm not going to touch that. And then I'm going to rename this test and turn off the group that's the original. And then I'm just going to work with this test. So you can flatten it down if you wish, but sometimes I like to change the colors, or I might want to change the background, so I usually do not flatten it down. For this tutorial, I'm going to flatten it just to keep it nice and clean in my layers panel here. So I'll duplicate this one until I have 4, always duplicating from my first one. And now I'll snap those into the canvas by dragging it up until I see the yellow lines. Over, and then do these two. Okay, so that looks good. I always zoom in to check and make sure there's nothing weird going on in my repeat areas, and everything looks really good there. So then you could flatten these down so you have one continuous pattern block here. And you could really just keep going with this as much as you like. So this canvas is 10 inches, so this repeat would be pretty big, but you could scale it however you wish. So you know you have all your original parts here. If you want to change out colors or anything like that, then you have it all right here. And this original folder here would work perfectly for a pattern block. So if you're uploading patterns onto a website like Spoonflower where you print your own fabric, they'll ask you for your pattern block, and you could use this, and you can scale it right on their site when you are previewing your pattern. So I hope this pattern tutorial was helpful for you. If you're not sure what to do with your patterns, you might enjoy making some digital paper that you can sell on Etsy with patterns like this. So if you wanted to learn how to do that, you could check out the video here. I have a whole playlist of pattern tutorials here on YouTube that you might enjoy as well. You can find those here. If you're on Instagram, you can tag me at MyMcDoodles and show me the pattern that you created. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.